don't need an introduction from all this.
Who knows what habitat is? There are 4 elements of habitat. What's one? Just shout it out. Shelter, right? Shelter from the elements, from predators. Food, right? Number 3? Water. What's the 4th one? Food, shelter, water. 4th one is space. You can get food, shelter, water in a cage, an aquarium, inside your home, right? But the 4th critical element of habitat for all living creatures is space. The space to thrive, to do what you do naturally, right? So when we talk about habitat conservation, we're talking about whose habitat? Who do you think we're going to talk about today?
Humans.
All of it, right? Not just wildlife, but ours as well. We require a habitat, as do all living entities. So here are the topics we're going to cover, and they kind of weave together a little bit. So we'll start down, and then they intertwine. We're going to talk about food, logs and leaves, chemicals, and then home landscaping. And woven throughout these, there's firewise, there's invasive plants, the concept of weeds, herbicides, pesticides. We're going to start with an easy one, feeding wildlife. All right, so the conundrum really, I mean, we have these signs that come in as we come into our community, and I think we're kind of agreed, right? But not always, because these are the kind of things we feel are dilemmas in our soul, right? They're skinny, don't they look skinny? Do they look skinny to you? Are they hungry? But I feel good when I help them. I moved to this place so that I could be close to wildlife, and feeding is a sort of a core topic. And what is feeding? I'm just throwing out apples. Was I feeding them, right? I'm composting, right? I'm not feeding wildlife. Should I put it in the landfill? Would that be better? Right? These are some of the things that confuse us when we think about what does it mean to feed the wildlife. And so it's not necessarily that straightforward. This talks about how feeding wildlife can actually harm the animals that you're intending to help, right? Because when we feed them, it's usually with good intentions. So I get this little sucker right. Human source food lacks the nutrients that wildlife need. So things that we eat are not the things that they eat naturally, and it does not help them. It leads to malnutrition because they do fill up on that. It's like can be like if we only ever ate Cheetos. You know, it's not healthy for us, it's not healthy for them. When they grow dependent on human source food, right, that's not good for their own survival. So you feed them around your home, and then you're not there, or you're on vacation, or you move to a different home. Now what happens, right? So you really need to think about the long-term health of the animal, because you won't always be there to provide that food, and they forget or don't practice their skills of getting food on their own when it's given to them. When they become habituated, and we talk about this a lot with the bears, when they become habituated to expecting food from you. There was this funny cartoon, but it was copyrighted. Anyway, it had the raccoons throwing rotten eggs and scribbling across the front of the house because they were expecting food and someone was on vacation, and you stink, where are you, how dare you go on vacation. They become habituated, and they can become aggressive with other people who don't understand what's going on in that dynamic. This is a big one, I think, that it brings in animals that you're not intending to feed. So you throw out carrots or apples for the deer, and there are other animals that maybe you're not hoping to come there. Rodents, raccoons, opossums. Maybe this wasn't who you were hoping to feed, but who you end up feeding anyway. and mice and rats. And then that leads us into the next topic, which is pesticides, right? And getting into things to control what you attracted to your house with the food that was put out. So, got two things going on here. Okay, so our birds. This is where it gets sticky. Are birds the exception to the rule about feeding wildlife? Maybe is the answer, right? Like a lot of these topics, there are some tough and nuanced answers. Most experts agree that bird feeders, while not necessary for the survival of the bird, even the migrating birds, are okay when they're done correctly, right? So that's the key. If you want to feed the birds, it's all about doing it correctly. High quality food, regular cleaning, especially the areas or including the areas under the feeders, because that's where the rodents come in, attracting other things and attracting things you're not meant to attract. Avian flu is an issue, so if you're feeding birds, you need to watch DNR notices and things that we'll talk about if there are outbreaks of disease that would indicate a cessation of feeding birds. You need to think about where the feeders are, placing them so that they don't do more harm than good. Feeders need to be either right up against a window or at least 30 feet away from a window. In that in-between zone, it leads to more window strikes for birds. Right up against a window, and they don't have time to start flying away and get up enough speed. Even if they fly toward the window, it probably won't kill them because they are not moving fast. Otherwise, you're drawing them in, and if you have bird strikes on your window, we can talk about how to help that as well. And also, they become susceptible to being picked off by birds of prey, or if you have outdoor cats, that could be drawing them to their death. You're feeding them, but then they don't make it out of there, right? And remember that in addition to seeds, birds need water and insects and shelter, right? So bird feeders tend to give them seeds, but they need a lot more for their habitat. And so if you're drawing them into your yard, make sure that that they have access to all the elements of habitat that they need. And this one, bears. Bears are really the issue with bird feeders and time of year. In bent tree. And so our guidance says that we should limit bird feeding to times when bears are not active, which is really only 3 months of the year when they're not as active. They can be active during these times, but they're not as active. And that's December, January, and February. So I kind of think from Thanksgiving to, maybe St. Patty's Day, if you don't think about it in terms of holidays. Those are the times when it's less of an issue with attracting birds. The good part about bird feeders is that they help us. We enjoy them. We love the pictures. I mean, guilty. The pictures, the enjoyment of the birds outside is wonderful. And as this gentleman said, who wrote Feeding Wild Birds in America, it's a great book if you're interested in this topic. He said the birds don't need the feeders, but we do. So birds may be the exception to feeding wildlife, given all of those caveats and done correctly. Leaves, the leaf dilemma. Are they habitat? Are they wildfire fuel? There's so many of them. What difference does it make what I do? And the messages around leaves, maybe it's just the way my algorithm on social media works and the email lists that my name has been sold to. I don't know, but I get this constantly, messages about leaves. Leave the leaves. Leave them alone. It's just like hashtag leave the leaves all over the place. Anybody get these sorts of conservation-minded messages? No? All right, yeah, maybe. You have to click on a few and you'll see how many you get. All right? So I don't know if if this is mainstream or not, but there is another set of messages around about leaves, and I think this is part of what makes it a dilemma, is that the messages are so mixed and it can get confusing. Fire-wise, clear the leaves. Right here, if you don't read the fine print or you don't read the context of some of these messages, they seem in conflict with other information that you may be seeing. So we're going to talk a lot about fire-wise. So I'm going to talk about this one right here, the hidden consequences of not raking leaves, how ignoring fall foliage can cost you. When we look at this message, who provides this message? The older people, adults in my family, used to tell me, follow the money, follow the dollar, then you'll see. And I used to not like to believe that, but you know, you get to a point in life where you're like, yeah, it's true. The people sometimes that put out these messages tend to, they're selling something, a service, a product, and unless you believe there's a problem, then you might not be so enticed to their solution to the problem. So it's first convincing you there's a problem, and sometimes these things, they sound very authoritative. You know, you don't scroll to the bottom and see who actually wrote this and what's at the very bottom. It's this lawn service. You know, I don't know them, so if anybody does know them, I'm sorry. I don't know. This isn't like a local company, I don't think. But they're saying this, right in this, the hidden consequences of not cleaning up your lawn. And by the way, we can do that for you. Give us a call. We're accepting new clients, and we have representatives ready to take your order, right? And also, so think about where these messages are coming from, always in lots of things related to conservation. Who tends to gain or who benefits if you take a certain tack versus another? And the second thing is, are they talking to me? Is my environment the one that they're really targeting? So this is the house that they were speaking to. I don't think this is Bent Tree, right? This house is not in Bent Tree. So maybe in this environment that this person lives in, maybe they need that service. Maybe this makes sense to them. Maybe that grass is going to be not as pretty if they don't get leaves off of it. But that's not, this message has an ulterior motive, and they weren't talking to us. All right. So what does Firewise say about leaves? All right. And Michael Corey did a fine job a few months ago on, so I'm not going to go through all that again, but just to reiterate a few points, there's a great video, if you didn't get a chance to see that, on hardening your home for Firewise. And Firewise says, for all of us, start with your house. Start with your house. Okay, so what does it say specifically about leaves? Within your house, your roof, your gutters, up against your house, remove the leaves. You do not want piles of dead leaves resting against your house. Absolutely not. Right. You don't want them under your decks, right? When you go to the next zone out, so Firewise has the ignition zone or the immediate zone, 0 to 5 feet, and then it goes 5 to 30 feet, 30 to 100, and further out. Once you get from 5 to 30 feet, it says clear around your propane tanks, for one thing, right? Enclosed propane tanks. And also, but it focuses on tree and shrub spacing and not having things on top of each other. Not a lot of focus on leaves, right? So not in the Firewise guidelines, and I looked at 27 different versions of them. So I think that in terms of leaves, Firewise, that's what Firewise has to say. Get them off your house, get them off from against your house, then that's where you start. So all things considered, you've got all these messages about the leaves. It is a fact that butterflies and moths overwinter as eggs, caterpillars, chrysalises, adults in our landscapes, and leaf litter is cover for them. It's where they spend the winter. Luna moths, some moths make their chrysalises, they look like leaves. That's what they use to hide them. Turtles, salamanders, all of these insects, they live in leaf litter. It is a living ecosystem in leaf litter. It stops erosion. When water comes down and hits a thick layer of leaf litter, it filters through that more gently into the ground, doesn't take a lot of soil with it. These are, flooding is limited, and so is erosion. These are all facts. So when you think about moving leaf litter, taking all that together, right? You think about your leaves. There's not two choices. It's not bag them up, leave them where they fall, or bag them up and haul them off. You don't leave them where they fall if they're near your house. That's not where you want them. You can gently rake them, blow on low setting, blowing. Kenny and I have this conversation all the time. He loves his blower. You know, I think it's a guy thing maybe. But the high settings can desiccate the insects that are in there. Blow them on low setting if it'll move them. Just start with the low setting. See if it can work. Can't hurt. Maybe it may, you know, and put them onto other places on your property. Leave them on other places on your property away from your house. If you have some areas with taller grasses or spent flower stalks that you didn't cut down, and that will collect the leaves, because I've heard that. Well, they just come right back. The leaves just come right back with the wind. But blow them into places where even maybe you've got some limbs that'll collect them, or the flower stalks. They help hold them in place, right? And then they can stay there. So that's with the leaves. Any questions about leaves? Cindy?
There's a couple of trails. I know Sally Dog's trail, sometimes the guys from the beach come up there and they blow really hard.
Off the trails?
And also there's a man on the one that goes up the waterfall. He blows the leaves off the tree. He walks along the blower. I think it's
So Cindy's asking about blowing the leaves off trails.
so it makes it harder to walk.
The leaves make them harder to walk. I think it's sometimes people don't see the trail. They can't see the roots. They can't see the edges. So in some places like that, perhaps it's considered a safety concern.
I don't know. I think he just does it because he just talks about it down there.
Oh, okay.
But I think it helps the erosion to have the leaves there, and I think that you're along with the leaves there.
With the leaves there. So maybe Mason will talk about who's blowing leaves off trails and if it's good or...
Turn around.
Look on the floor.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, don't kill it. All right. I was gonna put it outside.
It came out of the wall over there.
All right. Well,
Oh, there is?
it's a big roach.
Yeah, there's another one.
It's a wood roach.
There's another one down there.
All right. Well, we'll get them out to put them in cups and get them outside. All right. Well, thank you for not letting it crawl up my pants leg. That would have been fun, probably. All right. So now we're going to talk about similar deadwood, down trees, and snags. I call them wildlife trees. Again, even maybe more so. Some people call them kindling. I call them wildlife trees. I don't know, you know. And some people just don't like the way they look, right? So there's an aesthetic quality to this as well. So what does Firewise have to say on wood? Again, start with your house. I'm going to ask, who has a wood pile? If you have a firewood pile, hold up your hand. Is it within 5 feet of your house? Maybe? Is it within 30 feet of your house? Right? So we make choices about our risk and the potential risk and the rewards that we feel about that. We make that all the time when it comes to deadwood, and our firewood piles are one example. I don't know anybody whose firewood is more than 100 feet away from their home. I mean, it becomes silly, right? So some of the ideas about taking down trees that far away for Firewise reasons, I would question. But again, you would want to take down trees that are within 5 feet of your home, absolutely. To 30 feet, it's about spacing. Everything in Firewise between 5 and 30 feet is about spacing and not having continuous groups of landscape items that could ignite each other. Most fires spread by embers, and I think that Michael Corey made that point last when in his presentation. Embers come through your other people's homes burning too. So the one whose firewood is right against the side of their house because it's easy to grab the next log, and their home goes on fire, that's just as likely to set your home on fire with an ember. So these things are all sort of difficult conversations about how we approach it. Do trees and down trees around evac routes need to come up? Absolutely, right? I mean, our evacuation routes are important. Along the sides of the road, how far off the road? There is an aesthetic quality to the community, but what we can't let it be a cover for, I need a better view. I just, don't like the way that looks. I can't see the lake. I can't see the mountains. So when you think about dead wood or down trees, just be honest about what the issue is with a tree, right? If somebody wants to take it down because they don't like the way it looks, let's have that conversation, not a wildfire conversation. And follow what the Firewise guidance is. It says 30 feet. Our AC rules say 20 feet of a home. I believe if somebody requested a tree that they felt was of concern or a wildfire risk or a danger to their home and it was 25 feet away, my guess is AC would approve that, right? So we don't need to debate the distances there, right? Firewise says 30 feet. Okay. So all things considered on firewood, on dead wood, I guess. Standing trees, snags, wildlife trees, they do provide important habitat for cavity nesting birds, for all birds, vantage points for birds of prey to hunt. Large down trees provide important habitat for lots of things. If you just roll over a log that's been on the ground for a while, you'll see what's there. And that's a lot of what our bears eat. People see bears turning over dead logs or upending tree stumps because that's where the grubs are and insects that are food for them. Where is this snag or log that we're talking about, right? And then that's a huge part of the conversation. So you can't just talk about dead wood without talking about where. Along the side of a road, right up against your house, or down in a valley. So one of the biggest conundrums with this is the best way to control wildfire fuel, according to the experts, is prescribed burns, controlled burns. We're not going to be doing that in Bent Tree, as I understand it. As a community, we don't like the smoke, we don't like the risk. We are not pursuing that. So, it is a dilemma in how we address wildfire here at the community level, right? So you go back to focus on your home. Do what you can around your home and in that immediate ignition zone. And this couple points here. I think that downwood, especially big logs that come in contact with the ground, decompose faster, right? So sometimes when trees fall, there's like one limb that it's up and it just sort of airs around it. It's drying it out. It's not on the ground because there's one limb that's keeping it off the ground. Get that limb cut, get the thing on the ground, then the moisture and the decomposition process will be much helpful in making that less of a risk. And also, if you do take down trees, or think about what backfills, because that's going to lead to more sunlight, which is going to lead to more vegetation. What kind of vegetation, right? Think about that. Don't let it be more stilt grass. We're going to talk about that. Okay, one way to use dead wood, brush piles. Stephanie Holland gave a master class in brush pile building at the last work day. And I had some, and these are two of the results. This is the same one from the side. This cleans things up, it gives it a neater look, and it provides habitat for small mammals, for rabbits and foxes, and I think Mason talked a little bit about that. So these are really great uses, and don't put it near your house, right? Put it at the edge of your property on the back side. Other things if you need to take a tree down, leave a snag if you're comfortable with that. It only needs to be 10 feet tall to be useful to wildlife. You can have a tree taken down and leave the bottom 10 foot of it to decompose naturally, or make mineral stumps out of them. And I've talked about those before. If you want to know what those are, ask me. Keep it useful. Try to keep as much that's on your property, because that was on your property dead on your property, because that's where it needs to be to return nutrients to the soil to keep cycles of life going. This is as good a place as any in this presentation to introduce this. Doug Tallamy is an entomologist and the leader of Homegrown National Park. If we need space to live, we take it, all of it, and if that means filling in a pond or cutting down a woodlot, then so be it. We feel justified on sending the plants and animals that depend on those habitats off to make do someplace else. That's partly because, until recently, there has always been someplace else for nature to thrive. I think that when people in Canton or people along 515 are taking all of the space and clear cutting for development, and they think about, if the thought comes up at all, where is the animals that used to live here, where is it going to go? They think about places like Bent Tree. They're going to go to places like Bent Tree, up there in the mountains. And I think probably most of you here embrace that, right? We want Bent Tree to be a place where wildlife can continue to thrive. As development sort of creeps in around us, and we see, if you go down, you don't have to go far out the gates to see large areas of land being cleared. And so we want to maintain that, and to be a place where wildlife does continue to thrive, where we live up to that hopeful expectation. We need to think about that, because as we begin to market the community, and as we and when we focus on revenue and new amenities and things like that, it's not a given unless we pay attention to these things and we understand these nuances and make good decisions about habitat. All right, invasive plants, weeds, and chemicals. Oh, I went all the way to the end. Wow. Here we go. What is the dilemma is, how do you even know what the bad stuff is when you look at it? It's green. Well, I don't know. A lot of people don't know an invasive plant or a native plant, or for chemicals. Pesticides. Until actually, I'm embarrassed almost to admit that until I was researching for this presentation and preparing, I thought pesticides killed animals and herbicides killed plants. I thought that was the definition. Not true. Pesticides is sort of the biggest umbrella definition of chemical substance used to prevent, destroy, repel, or mitigate any pest ranging from insects. Okay, so if you're specifically targeting insects, it's insecticide. A rodent, a rodenticide. A weed is an herbicide, right? Or other things, algicides, fungicides, bactericides, 1 billion pounds of pesticides used in the US every year. Almost 6 billion used worldwide. This is what we're dumping on in our homes, on our landscapes, to try to push back the things that we don't think belong there. We've chosen not to have there. DDT, this was a real ad from right after the war, World War II, I guess?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I didn't know, the history of chemicals, chemical use, many of these chemicals were developed in wartime for wartime use, and then when the war was over, these industries, we're going to shut them down? No, we're not going to shut them down. We're going to convince the civilian population in peacetime that we need them. And a lot of things started then. A lot of the chemicals became repurposed and marketed first with the creation of a problem that maybe we had or didn't have, and then the solution. So used to be, this was how DDT was marketed at one point for use in your home, on your lawn, on your garden, and kill everything you don't want. Put DDT all over it. We know how that turned out. I want to go here first. So the big question with chemicals, which makes it hard to figure out and makes it gray, is what if I don't use it? What happens? What are my alternatives to using it? And in invasive plant or pest control is one of the big areas where even conservationists try to say, maybe we need it. So maybe y'all know that we have hemlock, some 500 plus hemlock trees here in Bent Tree, and periodically Lake and Wildlife leads an effort to treat them with an pesticide, an insecticide that will kill what's called the woolly adelgid. The hemlock woolly adelgid is a little scaly insect that gets on the tree and it will kill the tree. And there was but some people objected to this, the use of this, because they said, well, it kills other things. So there was this big study done at UGA about what is the impact of this chemical beyond the target, right? So, and I think that's important to us as we talk about, Big Canoe treats their hemlocks. Other people do, and as Brian's talking about things that are done all over our watershed, whatever chemicals might be there, if they wash downhill, they're ending up with us, right, here in Lake Tamarack. So they studied the hemlock, oh shoot, I got the wrong tool here. I need this guy. The chemical is called imidaproclid, and it's what's used in dog and cat flea and tick collars to kill fleas and ticks. So think about that. So you put it down in the soil, it's taken up by the tree and the roots of the tree, and it lives in the tree, and then when the little adelgid bites the tree, they die. Okay, so the question was, what do you do besides that, you know, or what is the impact of that to other things? And they did decide, they did some studies, long-term 7-year studies, that there is an impact on other arthropods like caterpillars. Within the first year or two, there are less caterpillars in the canopies of the hemlock trees. They studied what about the leaching of the chemical into the soil, into nearby streams. What about leaching through the soil and being taken up by other plants maybe that pollinators visit, and what is the impact? And they studied all of these unintended consequences, and in this particular, and also what are the alternatives? Let the hemlock tree die is pretty much the only alternative right now. There are other things being worked on, but right now it's, if you don't treat it, it will get the adelgid and it'll die. And the decision was made, and by the Forest Service and all these organizations that studied this, including UGA did this study, that the cost of losing some of those caterpillars in the canopies of the hemlock tree is worth it. The reward is bigger than the risk, and we should continue to treat hemlock trees this way. So that is, I mean, that took a study by, you know, UGA to figure that out, and I think that's the mental process we need to go through when we approach chemicals and the use in our home landscapes. Is there another thing that I could use to tackle this problem, and what happens if I do nothing, right? Because if you do nothing and the hemlock trees die, then all of these organisms have no habitat, right? So allowing the loss of their habitat completely is more of an issue. than the limited amount of damage unintended caused by this chemical. All right, I wanted to go back, jumping around here, to this one. This was our Bent-Tree recent adopted policy, and I'm really proud of the direction that Bent-Tree administration and BTCI has taken by saying that having a policy that says don't use rodenticides, poisons, or herbicides improperly, right? Well, that was a lot of implication of that, right? And that's great, but that assumes you read the label, right? You know how to use it, and you're not over applying or putting out in places where it shouldn't be, where bears can get to rat poisoning, and hopefully not using rat poisoning at all, at least not the second generation. We have a great new program, I think Brian talked about it a little bit, for rodent control across all of the BTCI facilities, which was a great step forward. And glue traps, so you can think about, especially in these, the use of these chemicals, there are so many alternatives to these two types of approaches. So, Heather.
So I have a neighbor who happens to be a VRBO who likes to go and just torch their land once a year.
With herbicides?
Yeah. Because I guess that's easier than having a lawn service, and then that provides an outdoor space for their guests to run around and have a fire pit and stuff. So according to this, is that now illegal?
No, because this is speaking to rat poison in particular and glue traps. So,
It says herbicide.
well, I guess then that would have to. You're right. We would have to have a debate about what they're using.
Whatever it is, it's like it just torches everything. Everything turns brown and everything dies overnight, and then it takes a year to regrow, and then they do it again.
Interesting. Well, that sounds like somebody we should talk to about what they're doing and why, and maybe there's a better way to go about that. Yeah. So let's talk about that conversation. Anybody big want to go with me? Oh, Kenny. Oh, he'll go. Okay. All right. All right, he left, but I'll get him. Okay, so invasive plants. Okay, again, so this, I believe that the invasive pest area is an area where maybe you conclude, and I have, y'all know, anybody who's been here for any length of time, I have bagged stiltgrass, I have pulled it, I have weed eated it, I have been at war with this for 6 or 7 years now. And I have concluded that there is a place for an herbicide use with stiltgrass. And I have read forums online, and I have asked people all over the country what they do and how they approach it. And they say, even like Kyle Limburger, Native Habitat Project in Alabama, he's like, you've never addressed stiltgrass on a large scale if you believe that there's no use for herbicide in this. But again, it's about what are you using. There's some, and I'll just throw it out there. We use a limited amount, only when there are no other plants around that we want to save, glyphosate. But it's and I know it gets people going because people have strong feelings about it with all the lawsuits and everything. But there's a form of it also that has a surfactant, because it can kill aquatic animals, but only in a particular form factor. And it wasn't the herbicide that was doing it, it was the surfactant, which is the thing that makes it stick to the plant better. That was the problem. So if you use it for stiltgrass control on your property, make sure you get the one that is for aquatic. It's called Aquamaster. You don't need a high percentage. So, the poison is in the dose mostly. The dose is the poison, or how they say it. But you need a low concentration. Get the Aquamaster so it won't, if it ends up in any aquatic spaces. It won't hurt the aquatic life, and it doesn't leach into the soil. So it's all about using it as the right tool in the right circumstance.
With the surfactant, like you say.
Yes,
That's the key thing.
the Aquamaster version of it.
Question.
Yes.
What good is it for me, as an example, to break my back to get stilt grass out of my yard, and there's an empty lot next door to us? They don't ever show up. There's trees down, it is a huge patch. What am I supposed to do? Treat somebody else's property?
Maybe they're never there.
Not in daylight.
Not in daylight. Well, and it's true. I know you. It's a valid point. It is a dilemma because if we don't address it as a community, the seed spreads. You can create barriers between your yard and their yard. Maybe some of the leaves that you need to move away from your house. Things won't grow up through about 6 inches, they say. If you can get 6 inches of leaves piled up, then the seed won't as easily migrate from the next property over to yours. So create some sort of a barrier between your properties. Talk to them about it. Ask, can you treat their property? And go at it that way. Yeah, the way they say with treating invasive plants and the strategy that I've read most effective, define a space. I'm going to take this space, even if it's this corner, right? And it is sacred to me, and that invasive plant will not grow here. And when I have dealt with that, I might step it out and add a space, a larger circle or the other corner. And you do what you can within the space that you've claimed. That's what I would say. It's tough. I'm glad I don't have neighbors. I wouldn't have to fight with them about it. Some people say, what about vinegar? I will say that home version, your home vinegar. Vinegar is acetic acid. It is about 4% acid. Horticulture vinegar, which you would need to kill weeds with any sort of efficacy, is about 20%. It will blind you if you get it in your eyes. So just because something is natural or organic or homemade does not make it safe. Especially not if you mix it with baking soda or salt or dish soap. I would say that your herbicides have been more and better studied for their dangers, and you have all of the label directions about how to do it properly than some of the concoctions that you might read about.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Is this one a flower or a weed? I'm not sure whether I should admire it or not. I thought that was funny, even though it is under copyright. What is a weed anyway? It's any plant growing where someone doesn't want it. The term is vague. It's subject to interpretation. So we have, just like we worked with BTCI on the rodent and pesticide use, starting a conversation with AC. We'll be visiting with them, have given them a proposal for changes to our rules, our property management guidelines to say, to do better with what is a weed. Because our things say you can't have your gutters falling off your house, you can't have broken down cars in your yard, you can't have your shutters hanging loose, and you can't have weeds. Well, let's do better. Let's say, and our complaints for our home landscape can tend to be, it can be complaint driven, like nobody has a problem with it until somebody calls and says, I think that they're not keeping up with their yard. So words like overgrown and tidy and unkept, those are also subjective. Some people might not think my home is tidy, but you know, it works for us, so it's all subjective. So we have, and what you have on your seats a little QR code, and that will give you all the details of this. Lake and Wildlife, and this is the official introduction. And you'll be hearing more about it, of something called Managed Natural Landscapes. Again, trying to get this recognized through AC. And this program is about encouraging residents to focus on natural landscaping so that you can all be awesome conservationists, supporting our native plants, our native wildlife on your properties, supporting nature there. The criteria for this program, it draws from Homegrown National Park, National Wildlife Federation, the Audubon Society, all these organizations that study this, looking at the cross-section of what they all do. And you can register with those organizations and get signs and really get some recognition. It's fun to have little things out there, you know, to tell your neighbors, I'm feeding the birds. That's what's happening here. When you don't cut down the stalks from your pale purple coneflower that bloomed over the summer, because the seed heads really feed the birds through the winter. Just let people know that's what's happening here, right? With some sort of signage. So the biggest thing that people say is, well, how do I keep it from looking like weeds? So my neighbors think that, going back to, you know, the invention of the lawn, or the proliferation of the lawn right after World War II, when home ownership shot up and we kind of spread out into the suburbs, and it became like a national symbol of unity. We all have a little house and we have a little patch of grass out front, and it's just sort of how we came to do things, and it became what we're supposed to do, right? Have that little patch of lawn. So to keep this focused on not just, I'm just not going to do anything, right? Like having neighbors that let it grow up, and maybe they don't torch it, but it just never looks good. It never looks kept. I think they just do nothing, and whatever grew up, and it's all maybe stilt grass. There's a lot of examples in this program at that website on what we call cues of care, which are things that tell folks who are looking, I meant for it to look like this. Right? This is intentional, and that give it like little statues, not like full of yard art, but like bird baths, rock walls that kind of create borders, a mowed path through that makes it seem not totally wild, but gives your eyes some place to look and land, and groups of plants here and there. Lots of things that are easy to do that allow you to feel good about your landscape. It's still very attractive. It's pretty, but it supports nature better. Asters and goldenrods and bone sets and some of the things that just will come up naturally in your landscape, as long as they're not mowed down, or that I can get you some seeds for if you want to grow these kinds of plants. We're taking out of our yard this 8-foot tall Canada goldenrod. We're trying to move it over to the spillway, because Kenny said I can't have a vegetative plant taller than me. The only vegetation that can live in my yard that's taller than me better be a tree. So you know, but there's other versions of goldenrod. So lots of things about this that will help if we all focus on our landscapes. We're doing this in some of the common areas. We have so much privately owned property here. Let's let it be the place where nature thrives, and not poison things out and kick everything out. And sort of philosophical change. This requires a philosophical change, that your landscape is not a spread of mulch with 5 plants in it that better not touch each other. Right? That's sort of like what our landscape is about. We say our plants are not allowed to touch, and they better be served up on a bed of mulch, right? So it's kind of philosophically getting away from that. All right, key takeaways. I'm wrapping it up. Anybody have, well, let me go through these. Don't feed the wildlife. If you do, feed the birds. Monitor the bird feeders carefully, and only do it from Thanksgiving to St. Patty's Day. Remove the leaves and wood from your house, above your house, hanging over your house, in your gutters, on your roof, and within 5 feet of it. Lessen the leaves and wood within 30 feet of your house. And as you do this, consider how that might be used to benefit the wildlife instead of just hauling it off or having it hauled off. Making wood piles, making snags, making mineral stumps out of that wood. Moving the leaves gently. Research chemicals carefully. Look at alternatives carefully. Don't just let it be a go-to because you saw an advertisement. You know the potential unintended consequences of what you might use. And then, so basically you're asking, is the cure worse than the disease? You know all the medical commercials we see now where it's for some obscure thing. Yeah, I don't even, maybe if I had it, I would know what that is, but I don't even know what that disease is. And it's got 97 issues where you go like, God, that disease must be awful for somebody to still take it after all the things it might cause, right? So know what the unintended consequences might be as you make decisions, and consider becoming a conservationist with your own natural landscape. Read about it. Send any questions that you have. So I think that's it. Any questions now? Yes, Heather.
I read somewhere that you don't have the, if you just put the bird seed, like if you just scatter it on your lawn, that the birds will still find it and then you don't attract the bears. Do you think that's a good practice?
I guess it's a matter of how much you put out and how frequently you put it out. I do know some people, their idea of feeding the birds, they have like a little tray attached to a porch rail and they'll put a handful every day, and when it's gone, it's gone. So it's not enough, you know, to really create that kind of nuisance. So that same kind of concept, if it's minimal, I would say that would be a good approach.
Okay.
Yes.
Last year, I was driving around up the mountain, up, what road was it? Hendricks, on my side-by-side with my sister and brother-in-law. And we went around this road and we saw a mama bear and triplets climb a tree 3 stories up on the back of this house to get to a bird feeder that was hanging on the rail of the
Upper story.
up the top story of the house. And all 4 of them were on that rail. And I think since we've ridden around more, that same house, I think they have, they're planning on removing that tree so the bear doesn't have access to climb up and get right on the porch.
Yeah. They might climb up the side of the house. I don't know. They're pretty creative.
It was also
Before the Bearwise education.
before the time frame that you have between Thanksgiving and St. Patty's.
Okay, so it was, yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah, the bears are pretty determined. They will get to feeders. Yeah. Anything else? All right, thanks y'all.
Thank you.
For coming. All right, are we dismissed?
Not quite, I just, thank you so much, Dara. Knowledge, experience, it's vital to know. And all this stuff on us to take home with you. Thank you for coming today. Thank you, Luann.
Just so you know, Jan and have a Christmas flyer over here.
Okay.
Christmas cards of the best holiday. Flyers are over here, you need to sign up by, is it December 1st on here?
December 1st.
December 1st, it's a little different format, but you're gonna still pick what you're gonna bring, appetizer, not entree, appetizer, vegetable salad, whatever you want to do. Circle it on here, keep the top part, keep the bottom part, turn the top part in with your money, but read on here what any specifics there are, a little different with the alcohol part and everything, but December 1st is cutoff, so this is the only meeting you've really got before cutoff. So grab one of these before you walk out and make sure you get signed up. It's going to be first come, first serve. And, you know, there's only limited room in here, and we usually fill up, so be sure to grab one.
Thank you, Luann. Jim.
On your way out, we have donuts left. You can help yourself on your way out.
Oh, great, great. Again, thanks for coming. Special thanks to Megan, who usually leaves early, taking volunteers. And a special thanks to Teresa Hoppy for all the work she does with us and with Tamarack Treasures. Have a good week.